Greetings, humans. I'm Randy Beechler. I was moved here from Ohio 20-some years ago, and I was in a club up there. I'm still in the club up there. Occasionally I get to go up there and see them guys. It's a real challenge in Ohio, near the lake, because of the weather. So what am I talking about? Weather. I've been at this over 50 years, and in all those years, I got a scope when I was probably 9 or 10. Never put it away, like a lot of people. But along the way, I picked up other hobbies. I'm a bicycle rider, motorcycle rider, and my favorite thing is flying. So what do all these things have in common? Weather. And you really learn about weather when you're flying. But all these other things too. So I always have my eye on the weather. Almost always. Probably the only time you don't worry about weather is if you're going bowling. So, how many of you identify as amateur astronomers? So that makes you automatically an amateur meteorologist. Hey, here's an idea. How many got reflectors? Okay. How many got refractors? Schmidt-Cass and Moxitov. That was for you, but you guys seem great. I just like looking at that stuff. Interesting. How many got more than one? Yeah. How many got more than 5? Binoculars. Binoculars are real good to have. Okay, so with all these bits and pieces, other than the Mark 1 eyeball, you gather up all these accessories over the years when you're going to go out and observe. You have tarps, chairs, tables, battery packs, cords, eyepieces, laptops, tools, binders, hats and gloves, electric socks. What would you say is the most important piece of equipment not to forget? In my book, a weather briefing. The most important thing. Now I know the club kind of works a little bit backwards, according to my world, because I look at the weather and I say, oh, this looks like it's going to be a good day to observe. And I know the club can't really do that because we say, tomorrow we're going to have an event at Kirby, and we hope the weather's going to be good. So I'm going to try and help you with some of the tricks that I've learned over the years on how to tell how good it's going to be. And as I dug into this more and more, I found that, man, this can really spin off into down the rabbit hole into some pretty deep. I mean, there's a couple of these topics here that you could do a whole program on. So when we get into the Weather 101, well, we live at the bottom of an ocean of air, of course. About roughly, what's that, 7 miles, 35,000 feet. And the takeaway here is the sun heats the earth. It doesn't heat the air, it heats the earth, and then the earth releases that heat upwards. So the normal rate is 3.5 degrees, it changes, 3.5 degrees per 1,000 foot. Is that right? Glasses. Yeah, 3.5 degrees every 1,000 foot. So when you get up there, 35,000, it's minus 67. And differences in the air density and changes in the temperature cause a difference in pressure. So you have different areas of pressure. And I have to pull up an isobar map. My isobar map is the biggest thing I like to look at first. And then the mixing of warmer air going up. Now this is a hypothetical. We stopped the Earth from turning. This is how the air would circulate if it wasn't rotating, just for purposes of. So equator would get more air, heat, or more heat, and then it would rise up and then just go to the poles and descend. And that would be, so, but that doesn't happen because the Earth's spinning. So, as the Earth spins, and particularly in the northern hemisphere, which is all we're worried about today, it gets deflected to the right around high pressure. And the interesting thing about this is, if you want to know, now you got to understand it. I'm kind of pre-computer and still a little bit computer illiterate. If you want to know where the high pressure is, put your back to the wind. High pressure's to the right. Very simple. And then over the years, as you watch these high pressures go from west to east across the country, you know, sometimes they move fast, sometimes they slow down. You get kind of a feeling of where you are. You can predict which way the wind's going to be blowing, if that's important to you. So, let me see where I'm at. Let me put in. This is what I go to first. Well, that's not very good, is it?
Hold down the control key and use the mouse wheel, that'll make it zoom. Is there a mouse wheel on the mouse?
Well,
Well, you can also hold it down, hit the plus.
Yeah. Hit the plus button on the,
Hold down control and hit plus.
that'll zoom so it's bigger.
oh, I did that wrong too. Keep track of the time if you want to watch that ISS pass, because
No.
I'm fine with that. In fact, what time is it?
8:19 right now. 8:35.
Well, we'll come back to the internet. I'll come back. Let me, this is an interesting shot that I took from the cockpit. And here. Interesting thing is this is the belt of Venus. If you've ever seen it, that indicates a really clear sky. And what it is a shadow, Earth's shadow, just before sunrise. And of course you can kind of see the full moon in there. So that's one of the tricks is when you see the belt of Venus, it's pretty darn clear. So we have we talked about the heating and cooling, and that's what our enemy is. So you have all these things that could go wrong with observing tonight, in no particular order. Number one, darkness. Where's the moon? What phase is it? If it makes any difference to you, if you're going to view the moon, if you don't want the moon in the way, sorry, Don Snow. He likes the moon. When does it set? One of the things about observing on a moon night, a high moon night, you can observe double stars, planets, and some of the brighter objects. So the next thing is cloud cover, obvious, how much cloudiness there is. Of course, we're looking for those clear nights. Humidity, moisture in the air, the dew point, temperature change, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Sorry.
You're fine.
Then the two big ones are seeing and transparency. You could do a whole program on seeing and transparency. I went really down the rabbit hole on that. Seeing is how stable the air is through its different layers. And you can check this. There's tests you can do for seeing and transparency. They're pretty simple with your scope. But the basic thing, and it holds pretty true, it's kind of one of these old stories, but it holds pretty true. You can check by just watching how rapidly the stars are twinkling. And that gives you a good indication of what the seeing is. Transparency is how deep you can see through the obstacle of Earth's air. Better transparency is fainter objects seen. And one of the tests I always remembered for transparency was the square of Andromeda, which is like a great big baseball diamond. I think if it's really down to 6.6, which is the limit of mag for an eye, I think you could count 25 stars in the box. So, you know, if you find the box, the baseball diamond of Andromeda, stars tell you a little bit about how clear the sky is. Temperature, well, temperature can affect your observing. Mostly it affects us. And we had a couple ones we had to add. Smoke and wind. Smoke is a real big thing now because of the wildfires. We had so many wildfires lately, and of course volcanic ash in the air. A couple years ago we had all those sunsets because of the volcanic ash. I had a good friend that retired, had his own business, built his dream house in Arizona with his dream observatory in the backyard, and spent an awful lot of money, only to move a year later because of the wildfire. And ended up in Florida because Florida has better seeing. Not necessarily clearer air, but better seeing. So smoke is a real big thing now. I mean, his whole dream was to move to Arizona and observe. And it just went poof, and smoke. Wind doesn't really determine whether we're going to observe, but if you've got a long focal length, or a long focal length if you're going to image, or a big Dobsonian, you know, the wind could be detrimental to you. So that's kind of a thing you got to watch. How's the time?
What time is it gonna come
10
on?
minutes.
24.
When is it?
8:35.
What
It's
time is it?
8:24 now.
Oh,
11
okay.
minutes.
You let me know, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
If the alarm's set.
Okay, good.
You'll see us leaving.
What's that?
You'll see us leaving.
Yeah. Something I said. So, back in my day, and there's really nobody here that can say okay boomer, is there? Okay boomer. Back in my day, you know, we had one weather report. You know, you had 3 channels on TV. One weather report, 6:20 p.m. If you missed it, oh well. You took a gamble going to the observatory and hoped that it was clear. Nowadays, we've got everything at our fingertips. 24 hours a day, 15 different applications. So, you know, we're in the computer world now. There are dozens of applications for astronomical weather. And I think we were talking about it. In fact, if you go to LAS website, it takes you right to clear sky chart. I always want to say clock. Was it clock at one
It
time?
used to be, but
It was clock.
It was a trademark dispute.
So there are regular ones like AccuWeather, WeatherBug, the Weather Channel, and then special ones like Clear Sky Chart, Clear Outside. What was the one someone mentioned?
I have Clear Outside.
Is that the one from? That's not from England? Is that the
I
United
have no
States?
idea.
One of them's from England, and it's like we're not in England. They got terrible skies in England. Astrospherics is the one that caught my eye. It looks pretty good. So you can go on these things and tell more than you want to know. Seeing, transparency, humidity, all that. Some of the tricks I use, just observations. Have you ever noticed you drive into work the same way every day and you see distant objects? Like for me, I see the Floyd's knobs all the time. Some days you can barely make it out. Some days it's crystal clear sharp. The transparency is good. This is a key. This is a flag to tell you that just get some really good clear skies. Another trick is, if you ever seen commercial jetliners flying over, and they leave contrails. Contrail is a condensation trail where the jet exhaust is higher temperature and it changes the temperature and it condenses into a cloud. Well, the trick is, if it leaves a trail that doesn't dissipate very fast, sometimes they stay for an hour, a lot of moisture up there. That's a key. Then you see them where it disappears right behind it. That's a good night. That's one of your flags. And
Can't that also tell you about winds up there?
well, you can actually look up winds on all the websites, and the wind does play a part. You know, that comes under the transparency and seeing. You can really go down that rabbit hole with the. There was an article quite a while ago about good seeing, and I researched it a little bit more again, where they talk about what size scope is better or worse for these seeing cells, because the atmosphere is turbulent. All these different layers is turbulent. And of course, good seeing was when it all slows down, it's all the same. Transparency is good in the wintertime. Seeing is good in the summertime when a high pressure cell moves in and sits for a few days and settles everything out. Not necessarily transparency, but seeing where the image doesn't shake and blob and warp and everything. So they're almost opposite of each other. And when you get both of them good, it's really rare. So 6 or 8 nights a year that it's just perfect. So, weather apps. Everybody's got their favorite weather apps. How many got a weather app for astronomy on their phone? Just one?
Yeah.
2? Wow. I'm in the same club. So the first thing I do is it going to be clear? Second thing, where's the moon at? The third thing is how clear is it? And I might have to pull this other stuff up after the break. But I'm going to rotate that. How do I rotate it?
There's a little button at the bottom there.
This is a shot of the White River that was kind of flooded in the springtime up near Seymour. Believe it or not, from the ground, it looked like a clear day. And that's one of the things that really amazed me when I started flying is how unclear it is when you think it's clear on standing on the ground. Any bit of whiteness from that deep cobalt blue is lesser of a night. You've got to look for that deep cobalt blue for it to be clear. And then of course the seeing is going to be opposite, but you know. But it just amazed me that how many days I was on the ground and said, oh man, this looks like a really clear sky. And then you get up there and it's not. And then sometimes you go 3,000 feet and you can see all that layer, especially this Ohio River Valley. You can see that layer. It's a line right on the horizon. 3,000 feet, we just got to move Kirby up a little bit. and it would be super clear up there. Oh, another gimmick, another trick, another flag, whatever you want to call it. How many times you've seen the sun go down, and it gets dimmer and bigger and dimmer and bigger until you can look at it without sunglasses. As opposed to, the sun goes down and it is blindingly bright all the way down until it's gone. And I almost got in a wreck one time because it was coming right at the highway, and I didn't know it. I was coming up to a T intersection. I had never driven there before, and it was blinding me. But that's a night you want to look for, is when that sunset isn't that big orange ball. Great.
It's 8:32, we have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Figured that's the time required for code item number 7.
Okay. So, the moon, and then how clear is it? And temperature dew point. That's a big one too. We can talk all night about temperature dew point. And one of the sites I use is it shows a nice graph. If the temperature and the dew point are closing, that's moisture. It's going to condense out. And when it gets to like 5 degrees and closing, the dew point temperature spread. And it's right on the phone. You can find it on the phone easy. It's not hard to find. It's going to, it's going to do. How many times have we gone out to Kirby, set our equipment up, and within a very short time of sunset, everything's soaking wet. So temperature and dew points are really important. I got pretty much covered most of my tricks. 3, 4. Cobalt sky, moisture, okay. We talked about seeing and transparency. They're inversely proportional. Yeah. Seeing and transparency. There is another rule of thumb that you probably know, but I've never heard this before today. Don't take your scope out from a warm area into a cold area and expect to use it right away. And this is kind of a general rule of thumb. 20 minutes of cooling for every inch of aperture. So if you have a 3-inch scope, about an hour for it to equalize. And of course, the big observatories, they got all those big louvers and things. They open them up right at sundown to make sure that the scope gets to the same temperature as the surrounding air. September and October tend to be the best observing weather. And of course, we talked about winter's the best transparency, summer's the best seeing. And of course, we look for that high pressure to move in. There's a tremendous amount of variances to all this too. I've seen, you think high pressures as our friends. When high pressure moves in, that's good weather. But I've seen it not be. So it's just a kind of a generality. It can always change. And it could be different weather here and in Kirby as well.
Break time.
Let's take a break, and I'll see if I can get this isobar up.
A great adventure.
I'll see if I can't wrap this up. So this is one of the sites I use. It's an aviation site, U.S. Air
Net?
airnet.com.
US Airnet.
And it has a really nice graph of the next so many hours, and it shows you the temperature going down, back up. It has a cloud coverage in 3 hours, 3-hour segments, and then wind speed and direction, gusts. You don't need any of this, but this one down here, temperature dew point spread. Whenever you see that get down to about 5, that's when it's where you're going to get dew. And there's another map they got from their menu here that shows, this is a satellite picture of your clouds. And then of course the old Weather Channel, you put your city in there, and it tells you. Look at there, 7:51, 7:52. We're getting very close to the equinox. Sunrise, sunset, wind, dew point, temperature, all these things. What I like to do is come over there, where's that? Up here, this menu, come on. and then go to classic weather maps. And this is what I like to look at. Here's your isobar map. You see your high pressure is moving in from the west. It pretty much is dominating, so it means there's some pretty good weather coming. Probably. And then you got a cold front. And these lines are lines of equal pressure. And when these lines are closer together, the winds go higher. So a big, giant, high-pressure circle is light variable winds. Now, one other thing that I failed to mention is we had Jay Cardosi here one time for a weather talk, very interesting. And one thing that stuck in my mind was he said, when you, I think I asked him, someone asked him, what to look for predicting good viewing. And he said, one of the biggest things was when you have this cold front move through your area and be 150 miles away by dark. That was a flag. So that's kind of what I do. I look at 3 different things. And I'm just going to show this picture. This is fog over the Ohio River. And you can see the winds coming from the south. And it's later in the morning, it's starting to dissipate. And you can see it blowing as the temperature starts to come up and it starts to dissipate. And I had another one that showed how this is the power plant over in Kentucky that's sticking up through the fog. And you see how that fog just right over that river. This is why we don't want an observatory near a body of water. And one more. This is my little baby that I get to go up and check the weather with. All right, questions, if I can answer. Observations. We could do a whole thing on strange phenomena. How many's seen strange weather phenomena? Cat?
Yes.
I mean, even like pareidolia, sundogs, you've seen them?
Yeah.
Have you seen it where it makes the whole halo? And then it goes further, there's a circumzenithal arc on top. That's fairly rare.
You seen the one on the bottom?
I think I have.
I saw it down in, Bermuda. I've got pictures of that. I've got pictures of the glory from a cruise ship going into a fog bank. And a glory is a circular,
Yeah, I see glories all the time, because I can get up over the clouds.
over the clouds. It's a circular rainbow. And where you're looking at, your shadow will be in the middle of the rainbow. And
It's an anti-solar point, is what it is. The sunlight's going straight past you and coming straight back at you.
it's very typical of flying
glory.
in an airplane. Looking
The glory,
down.
G-L-O-R-Y.
You'll see the jet is right in the middle of it.
If there's low clouds, I can do it every time. I think I got some photographs, but not with me. How about, I don't have a bucket list yet, but if I had a bucket list, the first thing would be the green flash. You ever heard of the green flash? I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen a lot of other pretty cool things. The moon illusion. How many have seen the moon illusion? You know about the moon. We could do a program on the moon illusion.
On the moon, what?
The moon illusion.
Where it looks bigger than the horizon.
Moon comes up, real big. Everybody goes, wow, you should have seen the moon last night. Take a picture. You know what's going on there? How that occurs?
They say it's just got a reference on the horizon, with it perspective.
It's the human brain thing.
Yeah.
Your brain sees the horizon as something close. You think when you look at the horizon, oh, that's 20 miles away. So you have a reference. And your brain makes that image larger because it thinks it's 20 miles away or 30 miles away. As the moon rises, and you can do this driving up a hill. As the moon rises higher and you lose that reference, it goes to its normal size. And the way you can check it is an aspirin is about the size of the full moon. at an arm's length. So when you're seeing this moon illusion, when you see it on the horizon really big, put that asteroid out there and see how big it is. The other thing I wanted to mention too was, of course, the observatories are built as high as they can, like Mauna Kea, 14,000 feet. That's to get above all this stuff,
Yeah.
of course. Interesting thing about Mauna Kea, the astronomers, when they go up there, they have to get acclimated to the low oxygen. All right, so it takes them some while, you know, and they get acclimated to it. But here's the neat story. When you go up there, you have a lack of oxygen in your brain at night. The sky's not black; it's a gray. Take a hit of oxygen, and it turns black. It's wild. So, no questions? You guys all know what to look for now for a clear night? Maybe we'll have another program on seeing in transparency in the clear sky. You could take a whole program and do the clear sky chart. You know, I really never used it because I'm out there observing my own self. I'm fortunate that I can make my own judgments based on a few things.
I was gonna ask, is like, how accurate is that? Do you know?
The clear sky chart,
Uh-huh.
you know, I think there's actually percentages in the description of it. And when I was researching this, that's what they said. Use one of these applications that has, you know, of course we're not going to use the one for England. and that other one, I think atmospherics, I think that comes out of Canada. But you could put, it's just like a clear sky chart, you could put your city in there. You know, they make charts for practically any location. And there's percentages, you know, the clear sky chart. A lot of people swear by it. You know, I've heard people, oh yeah, it's right on. But, you know, you go to Kirby and you're down in the valley, it could change. The temperature could change, the temperature drops too fast, and you get duped. Now, some people, I had this discussion with another astronomer. They claim that, you know, put your dew heaters on and they claim that, well, since there's so much moisture in the air, it's already degrading the image. Why go out there with a dew heater? I mean, we're just saying it's. Oh, the other big thing too is in your observing site, go west of the the Mississippi. Go west of the Mississippi, the dry land, less humidity. That's why Arizona, New Mexico. Where's the observatory? The less humidity, the better. And that's you know, we spent a number of years at the Okie-Tex, and I've seen some vast, just unbelievable skies out there. But of course, light pollution has taken its toll out there even. I think it's degraded over the last 5 years. We've seen the Milky Way before the twilight was over.
Wow.
We said, what is that?
It's a cloud.
It was the Milky Way. The stars were coming through the twilight. We seen Venus come up, and it was so distorted it looked like a nuclear bomb went off because of the distortion.
Speaking of Venus, you asked about rare things we've seen. Has anyone seen their shadow from Venus? You can actually see your shadow from Venus on a very clear night.
I've done
And
that.
it's
We did that at
at
Okie-Tex.
You can see it Kirby.
That's
When
great.
we
That's
first
great.
got Kirby, that's how dark it was out there.
Yeah, we were observing, in my 4-inch scope, we were observing Saturn's rings and split Castor and Pollux in full daylight. It was so clear. That's all I have. You wanted to do what's up? Somebody wanted to do what's up?
I was going to do a quick what's up here. It's my last going thing here. What the what's up is, something we're going to do, start reinstating every month, is let everyone know what's going to be up in the sky, what to look at. Oh, you want me over here? My hat and all. So the what's up is we're going to be putting out what's up in the sky. What can you see? What's interesting? And I'm going to put this on the Facebook page and send it out to all the membership in an email. And the format's going to be like tonight's. What's up? course, we just had the space station, which is always cool. Venus, very bright. Brightest thing in the sky is Venus. Second brightest thing you see out there is Jupiter. Jupiter goes down pretty quick, so you're not going to see it for a very long tonight. The other planet is Mars. Mars is another naked eye planet. You can see it very easily. So it's almost directly overhead most of the time right now. And it'll be going down in the west, of course. Some of the really interesting things to look at. Someone posted on our Facebook page today. What should I take my girlfriend out to look at? She's getting into astronomy. What can I really knock her socks off with? The Orion Nebula. Best thing out there to look at. Not only the nebula, but to go into the nebula a little bit with some power and look at the trapezium. And the trapezium is a really interesting area because it's an area of star birth. It's a star nursery. And if you push the power on that, you can see up to a moderate-sized telescope. Some other really interesting things to look at that I was going to recommend to this person was the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades. That's really interesting. With a moderate-sized telescope on a really clear night, you can actually see some nebulosity in the Pleiades. It's not just a star cluster, but it also has a nebula. There's a nebula portion to it. And you can actually see it. I've seen it in a 10-inch telescope before. Very clear nebulosity. Beehive cluster in Cancer. It's overhead now. It's a very nice open cluster. This is a great time to look at open clusters. There's a lot of open clusters up there. You have the Beehive, M44. You also up in I forget which constellation it's in, but you have M35, M36, M37, and Auriga. And then also you have some galaxies up there to look at. M31, 32, M110 up around, and that's up in the Andromeda area. One of the great things about this time of year is you can see all the Messier objects in the middle of March. It's clear. You can start out right when it gets dark and see one. You can go all the way through the night until the sun comes up in the morning and you can see all 110 Messier objects. It's called a Messier marathon. So this year it's been right here in around the 17th to the 25th, or the 18th to the 25th. The 25th is best for our latitude. It does vary a little bit according to latitude. But even if you don't go and look at all of them, go out next month, you're still going to be able to see 90 some odd Messier objects, if not more, during a single night of viewing. So whatever time of night you like to go out, you like to go out in the morning, 2 o'clock, there's a lot of stuff to see out there. As we move into further into spring, this is galaxy season. Galaxies galore up between Virgo and looking into Leo, that whole area of the sky. We're looking out of the Milky Way now, and through that area there, so you can see galaxies that are out there. Thousands of galaxies. With any size telescope, with an 80mm telescope, you can see all of Virgo cluster up there. You can see galaxies of Leo. We had a member of ours, Don Klaus, former president. He went and looked at the whole, let's say, catalog of one of these. And he did some of it from inside the city of Louisville. So he took an 80mm short tube refractor on an equatorial mount and logged all 110 Messier objects. So you don't have to have a big telescope to have fun. You just have to want to do it. I think that's the main thing is being interested in it, and it's a lot of fun. So that is what's up. I'm going to put something together, and it'll go onto the website, or it'll go onto the Facebook page, and then a little something out to the membership. That way we reach out to everybody. Not everybody checks our web page. A lot of people are not on Facebook. Heard that heard that comment a lot of times, that I'm not on Facebook, how can I find out what's going on? Check our website. If you're not logged into the website, you'll just see what the public sees. But if you log into the website, which is where you pay your dues and everything, all of our other stuff will come up. Our members only events, and there's some different things in there that you can look at, like board meetings and things like that. So now I'm gonna turn it over to the new president. It's all yours, man.
Well, I guess my job is to close the meeting and invite everybody to the next one. Do we have a date for our,
Usually the third Friday.
third Friday of next month?
It's up to you to change.
That's not Good Friday.
Third Friday works for me. And, tomorrow night, we're having the paid member event out at the Kirby site, so please come out there. There are directions on the website to get there. It's not intimidating once you've been there once, but you may want to go earlier when it's light, so you don't miss a turn, which I've done plenty of times. We have, the James Baker Astronomy Center out there that's got, we have a 16-inch Meade and other good-sized telescopes. We will, members will bring their own telescopes. If you have one you want to bring and try out, please do. It's easier to set up in the late afternoon, so people will probably start being there about 3 or 4 o'clock. Keep an eye on the Facebook page though, because if it's completely clouded over, Ronnie, who's the observatory director, may just call it off, and we may go out and putt around the observatory to clean it up, but not actually open up. So check the Facebook page before you commit to driving out to Indiana to see it. But if by good fortune the sky clears up tomorrow night, please do consider joining us out there. And so we will be posting the date and setup for the next meeting. We'll have a speaker program as we do. We'll have what's up, and also remember we have scopes. If you're scopeless and are interested in one, please talk to Pat, and the club can make a deal. So. All right, guys, thank you very much for coming out tonight. We're adjourned.
Glad you did that.